Hey there, y'all. Today we're talking Audio Adrenaline and their 1996 album, Bloom. It's just one of the great albums of 90s Christian rock. We'll talk all about it coming right up. Stay where you are. Hey there, y'all. Welcome back to another Tim Talks Christian Rock. Tim Risto here. Hope you're doing awesome today, and may God bless your day going forward from here. Today we're going to talk about Audio Adrenaline's 1996 album, Bloom, which to me I think is their best album. I mean, this is just a fun 90s rock album, and that's really part of why I think it's their best. It's just a solid rock album filled with 90s fun 90s rock. It's not too grungy, although there are some of those elements in here. It's not too radio friendly, although there's a couple of radio hits on here. It's just not too over the top in anything, be it rock, pop, or grunge. It's a pretty good balance of a lot of those musical elements. And it's just a great album filled with infectious tunes, relatable Christian lyrics, and good, solid rock music. It's a fun album. Before we get too deep into my review and do a track by track, let's talk a little bit about the band itself, a little bit about their background, and some specifics about this album, including a few credits here too. This album came out on February 20th of 1996 here on the Forefront record label from back in the day. I have the original CD here. Here's the awesome front album cover art with that flower with the bloom written in there against that steel brush background. Very much a 90s kind of grunge-looking style of the time. Band photo here in the back. We'll get into the band members here in a minute. And, of course, some great 90s photography of the band in here as well. And this insert pulled out had some great photos. And that flower in there too. We'll talk about the name Bloom, what that means in relation to the album. Here is the CD with, again, that flower centered on there, which is cool because you can see it through that transparent center on the back side as well as the front. So really a cool design. Of course, I love that back album art with the guy sitting on the couch. This album contains 50 minutes of music, I think a little bit more, across 13 tracks. Fits into the Christian rock pop genre, definitely leaning more towards the grunge-infused rock, but in a very stylish way that fits Audio Adrenaline style as they developed it, in particular, beginning with this album. Audio Adrenaline was known as A180 back in the day, then started to call themselves Audio Adrenaline, and of course often is commonly referred to just as Audio A. That's how I refer to them most often. They originally formed not in Seattle, like I have a shirt on here today, which was kind of the origins of the Northwest grunge sound that Audio A has, but they actually formed in 1986 at Kentucky Christian University in Grayson, Kentucky, interestingly enough. Mark Stewart is on vocals here on this album, as he was through the band's entire run from 87 to 2007, this particular well-known version of the band, kind of the primary version of Audio Adrenaline, I would say. And then you've got Barry Blair on guitars here for Bloom. He was with the band from 91 to 96. You've got Bob Herdman, who was on drums here, and he was with the band from 91 all the way to 2001, almost through the end of their run, almost as long as Stewart to 2007. And then Will McGinnis here is on bass, who he was pretty much with the band pretty much from the entire run of the band, except for their very last album. Bloom was executive produced by Eddie DeGarmo of DeGarmo and Key Band fame, and Dan Arbrock, both of Forefront Records. Producer was John Hampton, and this was also produced by the Goatee Brothers. Featuring heavier guitars, Bloom really saw the band move away from their more, kind of electronic pop sounds of the first two albums. That would be their self-titled album, Audio Adrenaline, which came out in 92, and then Don't Censor Me, which came out in 93. This is also a really good album. Their first one, you can tell, is kind of them figuring things out. But Don't Censor Me sees them really take a step forward. And then, of course, here now with Bloom is where they really, really defined their style, made a big stylistic change, and they sound better for it as a result. Stewart here on Bloom also delivers a more gritty vocal performance here as well. The lyrics on here are very relatable. spiritually encouraging, which I think is something that's been true of Audio Adrenaline throughout their career, throughout their discography. They've always been an encouragement to those in their faith walk, in particular to their target audience, which was largely youth, but at the same time, even now, me as an older adult, of course, harking back to having enjoyed the band back in the day, but listening to them again now, it still is really encouraging in my faith walk. And I think that's a big testament to the success of Audio Adrenaline's writing in terms of their lyrics. It's encouraging in your faith walk, and it's a discipling tool in that regard. There's also some nice emotional connections that are built in their lyrics too, without being too heavy-handed. So some of the situational things they describe, some of the words they use, even some of the slang of the time that they integrate in here are all used kind of sparingly into a good mix of elements to build some emotions without them being these big, heavy-handed, drawn-out things. They're very genuine in the way they build the emotional connection with the listener. In 1996, this album really showed that Audio Adrenaline was willing to move to the next level of their musical development. I think that much is really clear. And they did so with boldness, with a renewed sense of style in their sound, and while also retaining, the band's integrity. That remained intact. They remained true to their rock pop roots that were, developed on the first two albums, while also producing a heavier sound that I think most of us really keyed into and liked, and that's part of the popularity of this album. They also produced another radio-friendly, CCM radio hit, but also without selling out to CCM radio. They remained rock-sounding while still producing, the occasional more pop-friendly, radio-friendly hits. Most importantly, though, they didn't compromise their spiritual message on this album. All right, let's go ahead and run through a quick track-by-track of each of the songs, just some quick thoughts kind of off the top of my head on each of these songs. Then we'll come back around to a quick summary of what I think of the album, and then a little brief note on what might be a potential reissue of the album. We'll talk about that in a second, too. All right, first up, track number 1 called Secret. This is just a great, strong opening track, a great rocker, kind of captures right away the sense that Audio Adrenaline is moving into a new direction stylistically with this song, again, compared to those first two albums that they had done. So this is really one that sets the stage for this album very well. It's a good rocker. Love it. Track number 2 is Never Gonna Be As Big As Jesus. This is a much more pop-leaning kind of tune, very catchy, CCM rock radio friendly, and kind of reminds me, or a similar tune, supposed to hark back to, of course, their hit song Big House from their sophomore release, Don't Censor Me, which of course was the album right before this one. So you can tell them kind of really trying to craft something along those lines, and it is good, and it is very catchy. I think it works. Once you've had that first hit song, though, Big House in this case, it's always hard to eclipse that because so many people associate you with that. But I actually think I do like Never Gonna Be As Big As Jesus a little bit more than Big House, but they're both very catchy tunes. Track number 3 is Good People, and this is just a solid rock song. This is very much more sounding like some of the 90s bands of the era, not grunge so much here. This is just more of kind of a good rock song. Can't think off the top of my head of a good band from the era to compare it to, but just one of those that was always putting out just kind of good, catchy rock songs, and that's what this is. A little more radio friendly again too, but just a good song with some neat little moments in it that I really like. The lyrics are cool. There's a Seattle reference in there. There's a Texas reference in there, which kind of harks back to what I was talking about in terms of their lyrics, kind of creating these scenes or these moments that you can visually kind of tie into, and it creates an emotional connection along with kind of telling us this story across the verses and the lyrics. So very, very cool. I do like this song a lot. Track number 4 is I'm Not the King, a much more grungy infused track, which I really like a lot. Of course, talking about how the fact that we're not king, Jesus is king. Great track. Number 5 is Walk on Water. No, not the Daniel Band Walk on the Water tune, although I always think of that when I hear this. But Walk on Water, this is a catchy tune and really kind of has that Audio A sound that they developed. I think this is a song, one of the early songs in their early albums that really helped them to kind of define what their musical style and sound was going to be. And so there's certain songs that come in and you can tell, oh, that's Audio A. That's their sound. That was really starting to be defined here on songs like this. Next up is track number 6, See Through, a grungy mid-tempo rocker. Another good one that I like quite a bit. And again, more kind of like Good People, this is just evocative of those types of songs that this album has. They're not just, ultimate standout songs, but they're just good rock songs. They're fun to listen to. Next up is Free Ride, which of course is a cover of Edgar Winter's song. Catchy, more popish, but of course with a great guitar and rock sound to it. Following that up is track number 8, Man of God. Great ballad with some very vulnerable and honest lyrics throughout, plus some nice Hammond B3 keyboards, I think, there in the mix too. Number 9 is Gloryland, which is just another great kind of steady rocker. One of those songs that's just great to have on in the background, listen to. It's catchy. You get yourself listening to it in and out. Great stuff. Great traveling music, great road music. Gloryland is really cool and has a neat message to it as well. Track number 10, and the shortest track on the album, is Jazz Odyssey, coming in at 1 minute 22 seconds. This is just kind of a little bit of a gimmicky song, just kind of a fun song featuring Mark Stewart's Smooth Steve, kind of his alter ego, who would later reappear on Houseplant song on the album Underdog. But this is a fun one. I think this is one of the songs the album is actually known for because it's just fun, just simple. Some people don't like it. I think it's great. I love it. It's a lot of fun, and it's short and sweet. It's definitely better than things like, Armageddon Appetite on Rez Band's Hostage album. So in terms of trying to be funny, but also have kind of a laid back and just nice charm to it. I like Jazz Odyssey a lot. Track number 11 is Bag Lady, a harder mid-tempo rocker with, again, a nice message. Bag Lady is a reference to a bag lady that come across in the scene in the opening verse, but then it changes. There's other verses after that reflect other situations and things. But it's basically about having sympathy to others, to serving others, to helping others in need, and it's a great song. I like the message of it. I like the way the lyrics play out in this song. And the music is just fantastic. Track number 12 is I Hear Jesus Calling. This was a song that I read somewhere online that was almost going to be left off the album, and then I guess they decided they were going to go ahead and put it on. And this has kind of a raw demo feel and sound to it. So it's got this kind of simplicity to it. I don't know if it actually is a demo. Pretty sure they recorded it, but just kind of filtered it to give it more of that demo sound. But I'm not entirely sure the history of that. I love it though. It sounds great, and that rawness is part of what I think again lends to some of this album's ranking so high too. Is they took some chances on things like this too, and it really adds to the feel of the album. This isn't just a 90s grunge album all the way across the board. It takes some risks on things like that. I really like that song. And then track 13, the final track, is Memoir. Catchy and great closing rocker. Very much in tune with some of the other rocker kind of songs that I've listed here that have that just catchiness. It's fun to listen to. And you can just put them on anytime. So those are the 13 tracks on the album. All right, a few quick closing thoughts here before we wrap things up. Audio Adrenaline's Bloom is a fan favorite album in the band's discography and a personal favorite of mine here as well. I mean, Audio Adrenaline is a band that has really stayed the course pretty consistently in Christian rock throughout the era they were active. They've avoided the fray of controversy for the most part that's engulfed other bands like Newsboys, of course. Now, Mark Stewart did have, some severe vocal cord issues. I think it's a genetic issue. It still affects him today, I believe. And that's ultimately what kind of shuttered the band back in 2007. And he's written a book actually all about that called Losing My Voice to Find It, which I'm actually reading right now. And I'll do a review here on the Creative Christians channel as soon as I finish that up. The band was resurrected a couple times after Mark Stewart's era, of course, with other vocalists, and kind of ultimately became a whole new band with no original members for the 2015 album Sound of the Saints. In some ways, I don't even consider that Audio Adrenaline, but your mileage may vary. And that was very short-lived. I think it was a 2-year effort that they tried to resurrect the band that way. The band has never reached the heights of success and popularity that it did during that 1987 to 2001 or 2007 time period, especially with those original kind of classic band member lineups. All right, y'all, one last thing, and this is very important, though. Audio Adrenaline fans and vinyl heads, take notice. Rumor has it that a vinyl release of Audio Adrenaline's Bloom is imminent, courtesy of Girder Records. Now, I'll keep you posted as details become available and as I find out more things, but if it's anything like Girder's other Audio Adrenaline vinyl releases for Don't Censor Me and Some Kind of Zombie, then all I can say is we're in for a treat. As you know, Audio Adrenaline from back in the day was released primarily on CD and cassette. There were no vinyl releases, so anytime their albums get released on vinyl, that is the first time they've been made available on vinyl. I've got the Girder release for Don't Censor Me here, which is a wonderful, wonderful release. That was on an orange vinyl. Great insert, really well done, sounds great. And they also did, of course, Some Kind of Zombie album as well, too, which was also on a cool colored vinyl. Got a nice little insert with all the lyrics, and a great colored vinyl, too. So really, really nice releases from Girder. So if they're putting Bloom out, which seems like a very likely possibility, and if it's coming soon, then be prepared to pick this up. I, of course, will be first in line to pick up Bloom on vinyl. I think it's just a phenomenal album. I love it. It's one of my favorites. It's really my top favorite with Audio Adrenaline. Underdog's another one. But, man, this would be great to have on vinyl. Let me know what you think in the comments about Bloom, about Audio Adrenaline. What's your favorite Audio Adrenaline album? If it's Bloom, what are your favorite tracks off this album? And would you pick up a vinyl release if that indeed becomes available here soon? Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear from you. That's all I got for today. I'll go out, listen to some great Christian rock, make it some Audio Adrenaline Bloom today. But remember, above all else, stay in God's Word. Blessings, y'all. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.